Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the second shelf. It's another Tag Wednesday. Still trying to work my way through the tags, and it doesn't help that I'm tagged new tags. But this one is a little bit older. It's an original tag done by Steve Donahue over at his channel. Check him out if you are not subscribed, which I can't believe that you are not. And as you know, if you know Steve, Steve is a nosy person. So he made a tag, 28 more random questions. And he did that, I think, end of May, and he tagged me end of May. So it's a little less than a month. So I'm working my way through. Anyway, there are 28 questions, and given the fact that I'm waffling, I'll better get started. I have the question here on my phone, so I'm going to look to the side. First question: how old is your oldest living relative? Well, that would be my mother, and she is 87. As an adult, have you ever been in a fight? And Steve explicitly said he meant a physical fight, where one of the two goes down. And no, I haven't. And I also have never been slapped in public, which was question number 3, which, can you believe it? No, I've never been slapped in public, at least not as an adult. What's number 4? What's the largest non-human animal you've seen in person? I'm not good with measurements, but I think the largest is probably a whale. A killer whale, an orca. I think it's about 10 meters. And I think that's bigger than an elephant, isn't it? But anyway, so I think either an elephant or a killer whale. Have you ever had serious surgery? No, fortunately, I never did. If you could only compare the novels of Cormac McCarthy to one kind of garbage, what kind would it be, is question number 6. Well, for this question, you have to understand that Steve hates Cormac McCarthy. And he also loves Adam over at Memento Mori, who has a fantastic channel. You should check him out if you are not subscribed already. And Adam loves Cormac McCarthy. So Cormac McCarthy. So this question is just made to annoy Adam. Well, and if I have to agree on this one with Steve, because I don't like Cormac McCarthy. And if I would have to describe it, it's not really garbage, but when you have a beer or a fizzy drink like Coke or Sprite or anything, and you leave it standing in the sun for an hour or an hour and a half, and you take a sip, then this sort of warmish, stale feel you get when you drink it, that's how I feel about Cormac McCarthy. I just think his novels are boring. I can't get the hang of it. So sorry, Adam, but you knew that already. Number 7, who would be your dream casting for Superman? Well, because we are an equally opportunity channel here, and we love both Steve and Adam, I would say the ideal cast for Superman would be Adam from Memento Mori. Number 8, what's the greatest amount of physical pain you've ever been in? Like I said earlier, I'd never had serious surgery, thank God, but I had to go to the dentist quite often when I was younger. And fortunately, now you get injections, anesthesia. And one of the injections hit the nerve. It was a very short pain, but it made me, within a second, it made me, like jump to the roof and sweat. Horrible. If you ever seen that movie with Dustin Hoffman, where they talk about torture in the Third Reich, then you know what I mean. It's just incredible. Ugh, just to think about it makes my my hair stand up. So that was the worst pain I was ever in, and thankfully it was only very short. Number 9, do you believe in God, in a God or gods? No, I don't. Question 10, have you ever been good and properly drunk? And Steve specified that he didn't mean wasted, like you fall over and you just black out, but like good drunk. And no, I don't. I can't get drunk, actually. I have hypoglycemia, which means it's sort of the opposite of diabetes. So my body, when I eat sugar, my body makes too much insulin, which gives me a sugar low. So I can't eat sugar, at least not in big quantities. But it also means, because the sugar chemistry in your body is related to the chemistry that sort of digests alcohol. I can drink alcohol, but the moment I get sort of, and I can drink a fair amount, but before I get really drunk, it hits a certain barrier with my sugar, chemistry, and then I just get ill, really, really ill. So I've never been good and properly drunk, unfortunately, maybe or not. I don't know. Number 11, to the best of your knowledge, what's the closest you ever come to death? And I think that's quite a while ago. It was in 1994 or something in South Africa. I was there for just before the first three elections where Mandela was elected president, for a monitoring mission in the townships in the south of Johannesburg, and there was a lot of uproar and violence in the townships. And I was one night supposed to go to visit one of the tribal leaders, whose name, if you translate it into English, it's a Xhosa tribal leader, meant the king has spoken. And we got caught up in the middle of a shooting match. And, I dove behind a barrier, and the bullet that could have killed me just grazed me and hit the wall behind me. So that's probably the closest that I've ever come to death. And I still have the casing, the bullet casing, to remind me of how lucky I was. Yeah, the good times you experience when you work as a human rights lawyer. Anyway. Number 12. Which Star Trek character would the person who knows you best compare you to? Well, I know that because one of my best friends is also loves Star Trek like I do, and the character I'm compared to is Annika Hansen or Seven of Nine. And if you ask that person why, because I asked, they gave you 4 Bs: blonde, brainy, big boobs. We don't want to get into details about that. Let me just say Star Trek Voyager is my favorite Star Trek series, apart from the old original. Number 13, have you ever had your life radically changed by a book? And although most of you answered no, I can say yes, I did, but in a different way than maybe the question was supposed to be answered. And that's probably the only time on this channel that I will mention a male author, and that's a Swiss author, Friedrich Dürrenmatt, and his book, The Judge and the Hangman. I will leave a link to the Goodreads down below. It's a fantastic book, published in 1950, and I read it in high school. And there's a certain scene when the main character, who is a police detective, is in the car, and he's in a frightening situation because he's abducted, and then he looks at the stores the car passes by, and he thinks, well, I shouldn't forget to pick up my suit from the dry cleaner tomorrow. And I realized that this means he's not actually scared. And it sounds silly, but this moment was a moment that I really understood what literature can do. And it was also the moment that I was sure that I want to write books. I was about, 14, 15. It took a while because I wrote my first book, real book, novel, not nonfiction, when I was 50. But that book definitely is an important book that sort of changed my life. Number 14, is there a universally beloved classic that you simply don't like? Well, I talked about that just recently in a video, and it's not that I don't like it, but Octavia Butler's Kindred, a science fiction book, I just didn't think it was a good story. I can see why people love it, and the book is set partly in the 1970s. It was written in 1970, and the main character, a black woman, for some reason travels back into the past, the early 1900s, 1850-ish around in Maryland, where there's still slaveholders. And I can see why this captivates audiences, the way the slave holder family and the slave trade is portrayed. But I just thought it was not a good story. So I don't like the book. Number 15, what is your dream profession? Well, my dream profession, as you have probably gathered from my answer before about the book that changed my life, was becoming an author. And I am. So what else can you ask for? Number 16, is there an entire genre of reading you're bugged you haven't fully explored? No. Number 17, when you people watch, what's the main thing you notice? When I look at people, when I watch people, I always look at their hands. Whether it's a man I fancy or whether it's just people, I always look at hands. And when I don't like the hands, then there will not be a friendship, let alone a love relationship. Number 18, barring the unforeseeable, what's the most likely way you'll die? Well, looking at my family history, I'll probably get a heart attack or something, because I think that's most likely. Number 19, a typical Steve question. Partly trick question, partly real. Have you visited any of the world's wonders, ancient or modern? And you can see down below he lists all the ancient wonders and the modern wonders, and most of the ancients don't exist anymore, so you can't visit them. And from the ones that exist, I only have visited the pyramids of Gizeh, and from the modern ones, the Mausoleum, the Colosseum in Rome. Question number 20. What are your main superpowers? That's also a typical Steve question, because he believes that everybody has a superpower. Well, I think my superpower is that I can actually have a friendship with people like Steve. Number 21. Have you ever met any famous people? Yes, I did. Not only writers, but especially, people like rock stars, Rolling Stones people, because one of my boyfriends when I was very, very young was a musician in a quite successful German band at the time, and I met a lot of people when he was on tour. Not that interesting, actually, to be quite honest. 22. Have you ever slept out of doors? And by that, Steve means not in a tent or, but really rough, just on the ground. And yes, I did. Twice. And I don't recommend it, to be honest. 23. Would you make a good parent? Or if you're already a parent, how much do your children hate you? Well, I'm not a parent, and I don't think I would make a good parent. I don't know. I'm too impatient, I think, for being a good parent. That's why I probably don't have any children. 24. New Kids on the Block or the Backstreet Boys? Well, if I have to choose between those two, then New Kids on the Block, definitely. But I'm more a Barnes Courtney girl myself. That's the music I like. Check it out if you don't know him. I think he's fabulous and good looking too. 25. Have you ever been on stage in front of an audience? Yes, I did. I did professional ballet for a while when I was young. That's what you get when you are old. Then you have all these stories that you can tell, your sort of grandchildren. Grandma tells her story. So I did ballet performances for quite a while. But when I was a lawyer, I was on stage quite often, whether it's be a televised something or whether it was just a big speech that I had to give in front of an audience. So I did that a lot, and I kind of enjoyed it, but it's like with meeting with famous people, I don't think it's that spectacular actually, once you've done it a couple of times. 26. At the moment, what's your favorite non-booktube YouTube channel? And I thought about that, and then I thought that's probably Lex Croucher. I will leave a link to her channel down below. She's a 26-year-old booktuber from London. She had her channel for 10 years, and she addresses all kinds of question, feminism, political question. She just made recently a video about the Lush campaign, against secret police investigations. So she's a mixture of, you know, lifestyle, but also very political. And I love her. I love her style, and I love the way she talks, and I love the subject she addresses. Um, Number 27. Have you ever passed out while sober? Well, if I'm not sure what, Steve, what you mean by that. Whether you fainted, I never did that, but I fell asleep behind my desk when I had to pull an all-nighter more than once when I worked as a lawyer. So if that counts, then yes. And if you mean fainted, no, I didn't. And the last question: how strong are you physically, intellectually, and emotionally? Well, I think that's a difficult question to answer. You probably should ask my friends, but I would consider myself a rather strong person physically, at least for my age, but also emotionally and intellectually. But maybe my friends have different ideas, or you have different ideas, so let me know. And the only thing left to do, because those were the 28 nosy questions, and the only thing left to do is that I want to tag people, and I wrote it down because I think a lot of people have already been tagged, but I want to tag Sean from Sean the Book Maniac, and Eric, of course, Lonesome Reader, Mel from Mel's Bookland Adventure, Jess from Garden Scriptorium, Adam from Memento Mori, Nashwa from Nashwa Reads, a fantastic, relatively small channel, but she is just incredibly funny, Jacqueline from 6 Minutes for Me, and Liz from Liz Schubert. So those were my answers to the nosy questions compiled by Steve. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed it. Let me know down in the comments whether any of the questions caught your specific fancy, or whether you have any more nosy questions. And I'll see you all soon in my next video. Bye-bye.